Shack Radio.
Well, hello, Allan Gray here with you for Shack Radio Facebook, coming to you from Neighbourhood House in Morwell, and where I'm with manager Tracy Lund. Tracy, welcome.
Hi Alan, good to be here.
Yeah, and well, why would I come to you from Neighbourhood House? Well, like many businesses, organisations, since around about March, the pandemic that we find ourselves in has really had an effect on everything. The way things are structured to run events and, you know, cancellations galore. You know all about it.
Yeah,
and Tracy, the Neighbourhood House is no exception to this, is it?
No, it's not. So,
and might I just point out,
yep,
not just the Neighbourhood House in Morwell, but a lot of the neighbourhood houses, which I was unaware of till the other day.
Yeah, so the neighbourhood houses across Victoria. So the neighbourhood house sector, we're about 400 houses strong, just for your listeners. So, you know, there's pretty much at least one neighbourhood house in every local government area. So because of the COVID lockdown, neighbourhood houses were impacted as well. So we had to close up all our activities, and all our social supports had to close, and particularly in Melbourne, they had to shut down everything. And I guess we were lucky in a way that because we supply emergency relief as well, that we were able to stay open to do that.
Just on the emergency relief, that would have had a major impact at the start of it because of the panic buying of, well, toilet paper was the first thing, but a lot of the other things, like the essentials of like rice, sugar, flour, milk.
Yeah, so you would have heard us messaging about that. So right at the beginning of the pandemic, you're right, Alan, you know, as a society, we did come together to collectively panic buy, which had an enormous impact across our community, particularly for our more vulnerable community members and those that are on really limited incomes, because they just don't have the expendable income to actually go from store to store to get the basic needs.
Just going back to that, your food relief program, just remind us how that works.
So our food relief program pre-COVID is open 3 days a week. It's a drop-in service, open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and anyone in need can actually come into the neighbourhood house and get some support with food relief. So, but during COVID, we had to pivot a little bit.
Like everywhere, as I said, the changes had to be made.
Yeah, so we had to make some changes. So initially, instead of people buying from the shelf, instead of people actually picking their items from the shelves, we weren't able to do that. So we had to go to pre-packed boxes and packages, which was a little bit challenging for us because, one, it wasn't something that we're normally used to doing. It requires a lot more manpower to do it.
And how does that work with volunteers? Because I imagine numbers would have had to be kept with the volunteers and...
Yeah, so we were very lucky with volunteers. We have our volunteer cohort is reasonably young. So, and I know a number of neighbourhood houses and certainly other support services, they had to reduce the amount of volunteers because they had volunteers that were in those vulnerable cohorts. So primarily, I guess, around age, and they're our older residents. We've got a pretty young volunteer group here, so we actually didn't lose many people at all. But we also had a lot of people identify with us and say, you know what, my work's changed, we've had to pivot, and I've got some time. So I had people join us.
Unfortunate on one hand, but fortunate on the other.
That's right. So while it was unfortunate for them, it didn't give them some time that they can contribute back to their community. And as you know, we've never experienced a global pandemic before. But what I can say from
I can't think of anyone that was around 100 years ago.
I can't think of anyone either. But what I can say from our experience, I guess, is that people just got in and got dirty. They rolled up their sleeves. They were often impacted themselves, but they were really looking for how they can support other people as well. So that was, really the good news story that came out of it for us, is that we got to see that on a really grassroots, intimate level. And we also got to work with some fantastic people that we might not have actually seen through our volunteer program. If it had not been for COVID, it just meant that they had extra time, or things had changed for them, or their working conditions were different, that allowed them to support their community in a different way.
Great. And just once again, Allan Gray here with you for Shack Radio Facebook, and joined by manager of Morwell Neighbourhood House, Tracy Lund. And we're talking once again the impact of COVID-19, the pandemic, on running of a neighbourhood house. And so I think around about May, June, there was maybe a small glimmer of hope things might be opening up, and then we took a backward step.
Yeah, we did.
And then, okay, well, the adjustments you made then, when you thought, great, this might be, and then to now, where, fingers crossed, we got to be positive. We got to be positive.
Yeah, I'm feeling really confident this time. I have to say, at a personal and professional level, in June, I wasn't feeling as confident about opening the doors and allowing people to come back into the house. And I guess I was a bit nervous. We'd not experienced this before, and I really didn't know what it was going to look like to come back.
And how much work is that to make sure you adhere to the DHS?
Yeah, so we've got to have COVID-safe plans for everything, and cleaning plans.
As you see how far apart we
are. We are trying to stand apart. It's making it a little bit more challenging than normal for a interview, isn't it? So,
yeah.
But we're aware that sorry, the question about DHS. So, we have to adhere to the regulations just like everyone else. So we've got all our plans in place for opening up. We're ensuring that everybody is kept as safe as possible, and that's really around making sure that we have the right density limits in the room, and people are, distanced from one another. And when they're inside, they're actually wearing face masks. There's lots of hand sanitizer in every room, and we're doing lots of cleaning.
Let's just come back.
Sorry, and lots of cleaning.
Yeah, and lots of cleaning. Well, that's thing. A lot of places is sanitisation and everything is just.
It's a really important thing for us to be doing.
What has started to return to normal as we know it now?
Okay, so COVID normal for us. Now we're coming to the end of the year, so we've got a real focus on our emergency relief. So we're really at the moment working on our distribution for hampers, Christmas hampers, food hampers, and toys. So the next 2 weeks for us is really around that. We want to ensure that everybody that needs support through Christmas gets it. We want to make sure that people have access to, some of the joys in life around Christmas, the things that we all love.
Because it's been a big year when you look at job losses. And
a hard year, and if you look at the impact that we've had with job losses, people's mental health, their ability to engage with their community, all of these have been impacted. So we just want to make sure that where we can support people to have the best Christmas that they possibly can. So that's a real focus for us. But in the background, we're working on our program for us to reopen for next year. So what you're going to see is something a little bit different. We're probably known for our bigger events with lots of people. So we're breaking those.
I've seen myself on television.
We have some. So we're breaking those down a little bit. Instead of regular big events where we might have 60 people come in for a community lunch, we will be having a number of different activities that are still around food. That will be, focusing on small groups. So we'll have, we're going to have a community breakfast on a Wednesday. We're also looking at a Soul Food Monday. So people can bring along their craft or something that they might be working on. It might be on their computer. They can bring that along, and we'll have soup and sandwiches and coffee and a volunteer here to support them. So they're the sorts of things that we're looking at.
So it's breaking it up in smaller gatherings. So
smaller gatherings,
often. Moving forward into the 2021, hopefully again things start to wind back.
Yes, everything's crossed, Allan.
What are you looking at, or would you say it's too early to tell?
In terms of our program?
Yeah.
No, like I said, we're working on this in the background. So the feedback we've had, and when people are talking to us, they're really keen to re-engage. And that's why we feel these smaller activities more often, so people have got more opportunities to come to different things, is probably the way forward. That's going to be, have the most positive impact, but the best engagement. The people that we sort of interact with on a day-to-day basis are often quite vulnerable themselves, and the thought of coming to a community lunch where there's 40 or 50 or 60 people is really daunting. We can't fit them in the density.
So it's where the smaller group would probably be better for
Yeah,
them.
so lots of people have said, we want to re-engage, but we need some small activities. So that's a real focus for us. And obviously we always have our emergency food relief. So that is always playing out in the background.
Yeah. All right. Well, Tracy, thank you for your time this afternoon here on Shack Radio Facebook. Allan Gray, I have been here with you talking to Tracy Lund at Morwell Neighbourhood House. The implications the COVID-19 situation has found us with running an organisation like this, in fact, right across many neighbourhood houses as well. So look, Tracy, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Alan. It's great to talk to you.